Hey there, everyone. It's Irene Lyon. It is the 30th of November. If I believe today is the last day of November 2020. I'm popping in today. If you're watching this, you might be watching the recording either on Facebook, perhaps on the YouTube channel, maybe even on Instagram. But today is Cyber Monday. I know it's a little gimmicky, folks, but we did this sale last year and it helped people a lot get into the 21-day nervous system tune-up course. This is my self-study starter course that we have had around for, I think, over 6 years now. And today there's a sale. Regularly, this course, the self-study course, which I will run through what it's all about. And I'm also here to answer your questions around this course and just what it is, how it can help you, etc. So this course is regularly $297 US. Today, you get $100 off, and it's $197. So I am going to make sure that all is going well here. If you are here, let me know. And I'm going to make sure my windows are closed so I'm not distracted. And let's get started. Okay. Hey there, Anne. Let me just shift this so I'm not staring at myself. Okay. All right, so hey there, Anne. You say you just joined and you're trying to work out how to access the content on my iPhone. Good question. So everything is online. So the main way to do that is to use your web browser. So for instance, I know on my phone, I use Chrome. And depending on whether you are on what browser might determine a different way of getting in there, but you can go in via your web browser, have the link. You obviously need your password, your username, and it should pop up the course for you on your phone. In some ways, it can be a little easier to use it on a tablet or on a computer just because the videos are a little bigger. So if you ever do have a way to do this on a tablet or an iPad or obviously a computer or a laptop, that's usually the best way to do it. But I know that people love their phones and need to work off of their phones, so I know that you'll be able to figure out a way to do it. Let's just see. Hello, Helen. Yeah, and if there's any questions, if you've got any questions today, send us an email because we might miss things on social, but support@irenelyon.com. That is the email address so you can get in there and ask questions. I'm going to start by answering some specifics around the course, so some of the common questions we get. But before we do that, I got a great comment on Instagram last night. And this was someone who we were advertising the 21-day nervous system tune-up, which is on sale today. And someone who's just started the course chimed in and wrote what she has experienced after doing the 21 days for 10 days. So this is from Nina, and she posted it on Instagram, so open source. So she shared this with the public. So I had to read it. She said this, oh, wrong one. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go to my phone here. Technical glitch. Too many comments are coming in right now. Let's see here. There we go. Here we go. It's from Kat, not Nina. Nina was another comment. Okay. So Kat wrote, I've just completed day 10 of your 21-day tune-up course, and I'm already noticing changes that I've never had in my life. And then she had the emoji hands, which is like, yay. The last few days I've woken up early and actually felt awake. I can feel my nervous system calming down in stressful situations, and I'm so excited for the rest of the course and my healing for the future. Thank you. So you're welcome, Kat. Or Kath. And so I want to pluck out what she just said there, because if you're really new to this work, you might not understand the significance and the ripple effect and the byproduct effect of working on this one system via the world and the work that I have created online. And so when we are really stressed, when we are living in survival stress, when we go to sleep at night, we don't go into true rest digest mode. What we do is we go into a shock state. Now everyone's going to be a little different. Let's turn off my volume here. Everyone's going to be a little different in that some people will go to sleep and they'll have trouble sleeping, so their sleep is restless. Other people will go to sleep and they'll be dead to the world, and then they'll wake up in the morning and they're fatigued. Either way, people wake up and they're groggy, they're not rested, they haven't had that restorative, deep cellular repair, immune enhancing sleep, which is when our immune system does the work that it needs to do to get rid of cells in our body that have gone astray. This is where cancer cells get stitched up and plucked out of our bodies and excreted. This is where cuts and wounds heal. This is where our tissues regenerate. When we sleep and it's restorative, the fluid in our spine and the discs in our spine, it regenerates, it gets more fluid. And so over the course of a lifetime, if our sleep is continually stressed, even though we might sleep a lot, if it's not the yummy, juicy, healthy, restorative sleep, over time we slowly start to deteriorate and decline. Inflammation creeps in, repair doesn't happen, and this is how we get unwell. So when she mentioned that only within 10 days she found that she was sleeping and waking up with rest, feeling restful and awake, this is a really good sign. And it just shows, even though we're not focusing on sleep hygiene, I never in these courses tell you how to do something behaviorally in terms of what to do at night to wind down. There's none of that. I don't even say do these lessons before bed. It actually doesn't matter. It infuses in all these really interesting ways. So sleep is a huge one, and it's definitely governed by the autonomic nervous system. Okay, let's go in here. So I wanted to read that comment. I also wanted to say that this course is something that when you get into it, when you start with it, number one, you have the material for life. So even if I should leave this planet, which I hope to not do that anytime soon, so knock on wood, the website will stay up there. So you will have this content for as long as you want it, as long as the internet exists. When you join, you are given a username, you create a password, everything is on the website, all of the lessons, all 21 days, and I'll talk about what those are in a moment. All the 21-day lessons are there, the bonus material, access to our private Facebook group, some post 21-day practice tips. We just loaded a very robust FAQ section where we answer 20 of the most commonly asked questions. That in itself is like a little book. And each day there's an introductory video where I'm talking to you about what the lesson is about in addition to the lesson. So what is in the course? Basically, and the other thing, you can download the videos and the audios so that if you want to put this stuff on your computer or on a hard drive and you're somewhere where you don't have internet connection, you can practice, you can learn. It's a great way to keep going even if you're not connected to the internet. All of the lessons are based on the work I have studied, my training, so namely somatic experiencing, which is the work of Peter Levine, the work of Kathy Kane, which is somatic practice, and the Feldenkrais method, which is the work of Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais. And then, of course, my way of blending all these things together into video trainings and audio, I call them neurosensory exercises. So in the course, there are 5 video trainings. We call them the biology of stress. And they run through everything from the basics, which are important. We have to start with the basics, how the nervous system works, how it stays either stuck or releases. We get into the branches of the nervous system. I dive deep into what the vagus nerve is and the different branches within that. I talk about early trauma, how when we're young, we aren't wired fully. We are not fully cooked as humans when we come out of mom, and we need to learn how to self-regulate through co-regulation. So I get into our early wirings, I call it primary wiring, teaching you how this either happened or maybe didn't happen depending on your circumstance or your environment. I talk about something called procedural and declarative memory in these videos, and how we store traumatic stress in our system in the form of procedures that live in our tissues, in our movements, in our organs, in our immune system, all the things that connect to this body of ours. We store things inside when we don't emit, emote, and let out our emotions, our hurts, our pains, our movements that might need to occur to protect us when we get into a traumatic event. Our system goes into literal procedural mode to protect without conscious thought. It's unconscious. And if we can't act out the desire to hit or flee or shut our eyes and not see something, or cry or scream or be exuberant and full of energy, if we have to bring that inside and hold it down because it's not safe to do that for whatever reason, that stuff doesn't go away with time. I'll be very direct with that. This isn't like a cut that you would get on your hand due to something, like a knife or something like that, and you slipped the knife when you were cutting vegetables. Without having to think about it, our immune system, thank God, fixes that cut. It stitches it up. It heals naturally. These stored traumatic stressors in our system, they don't typically heal naturally, because of our cultural conditioning, because of how we have really just industrialized the human system into very distinct ways of being. And this is where we're allowed to cry. We're allowed to cry at a funeral, but we're not allowed to cry at a movie theater. We're allowed to be angry if we're a boy, but if we're a girl, we can't show our rage. I mean, I'm just being very general there. So there's all these ways in which we hold these things in. This is what traps the survival stress. This is what leads to dysregulation of the nervous system. And the course, the 21-day course, is geared to get you started towards working with that dysregulation. Okay, I'm going to go into some of the questions here. I'm going to have a little bit of water so that my throat doesn't get all dry. And just make sure all systems are okay. All right. Also, Crystal, I know you're here with me. Crystal is helping put links in when we need them. If there's any questions that have come in through support that you feel might be really important for me to answer, just send me a WhatsApp message and I will get those. I'll make sure my notification bell is turned off. All right, so to your questions, and please don't be shy, ask your questions. If you have a question, chances are another 30 people do as well. Okay. Helen wants to know, how is this program different from DNRS? So DNRS, I always get fumbled with the wording of that, but I think it's dynamic neural retraining system, something like that. I only know DNRS from my students who have gone through the 21 days and who've gone through my longer program, Smart Body, Smart Mind. I only know it through that because they have gone through it and then they've come into my course because it hasn't gotten to the deeper levels of the traumatic stress, the survival stress. From my knowledge, it was created by a woman named Annie Hopper, and she had a lot of sensitivities, a lot of just sensitivities in her body, and she figured out a way to heal them. Now, I have no doubt that this is what occurred, but we don't know her. I don't know her history, what it was from, and from what I've seen, again, I've just heard this secondhand, it has a lot of cerebral basis to it, whereas the work I do, Helen, is very deeply somatic. I am not giving anyone a script to say. I am not asking anyone to have affirmations or use their higher brain as a way to change what's happening in the body. We use our higher brain, obviously, because when you're in the course, you have to read, you have to listen. So that level of comprehension must be online. It doesn't mean we have to be perfect, but we have to be able to take that in at that cognitive level. This is why it's hard to do this online program if you're like a 5-year-old, right? We wouldn't want to put a 5-year-old in front of a screen and try to teach them this way, because they just don't have that capacity to sift through the information. But as adults who are, self-starting and want to learn, the cognition has to be there. But then, Helen, when we get into the exercises, they're very subtle, but they're very powerful. So learning how to reconnect to our environment is something that for some of us, if our environment was really scary and really terrifying growing up, connecting to our environment will feel terrifying. Or it might be a welcomed holiday because we've never considered it. And so the way I see healing at this level, it isn't a one-size-fits-all, and yet there are these lessons that, of course, everyone goes through in the 21 days. In my other program, Smart Body, Smart Mind, it may appear that it's a one-size-fits-all, but the theory complements the potential outcome for each lesson. So someone might go into, let's just say, one of the basic lessons we teach is basic orienting, getting back into the here and now, into the external world. Some people, as I mentioned, will find that so soothing and lovely and just like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. How come no one's ever asked me to just notice my environment? Other people might go into that and it terrifies them and it actually spikes their survival stress. That's usually a sign that there is more earlier trauma, more pre-verbal trauma in the system. But again, I generalize because everyone is different. And so we are trying to find a way to reconnect to our inner essence, our inner physiology, our inner movement, something called interoception, so the perception of our internal environment. And then we're in some ways learning a second language of the nervous system, one that we've maybe never learned before, which is how to connect to the internal and the external at the same time, and then how to feel and process without judgment and without labeling what is coming up. So nowhere in my work do I say, if you feel this sensation, this is what you do. Nowhere in my work do I ask you, think of the worst traumatic event you've ever had happen and then see what happens. We're kind of flipping this on the other side, 180 degrees, and we're wanting to restore the system so that it can then process and heal the stored traumas that are in the system, as I mentioned a second ago. I liken it to, if you've ever heard of something called terrain theory. This is actually a hot topic right now with viruses being talked about all the time. Terrain theory means that basically the health of the system will determine the wellness or the illness. And so if we think about a garden, I used this example the other day, we can plant beautiful organic seeds and feed it really good water and give it lots of good sunshine, but if that soil is dry and devoid of minerals and doesn't have healthy bacteria and viruses and all the living creatures that need to be in soil, the worms and the everything. I'm not a soil engineer or scientist, but good soil is just thick and black and it's just got so much beauty to it, right? We want to work on improving that soil so that no matter what goes in there, it grows. Of course, we need water and sun and all those other things. So I think of this work in the same way, is that we are working with the system, the foundational system, so that no matter what happens to us in the environment, that integrity is there. So Helen, it is different. I can't speak to the specifics because I haven't gone through it, but the people that have worked with me who have said that it wasn't bad, it wasn't a bad program or anything like that, but it didn't give them the deeper elements that needed to be learned about trauma in their nervous system, and then that organic biology that I've just been talking about. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'll be honest, if it really was the answer, they wouldn't be in the programs that I offer, right? And I'm all for doing lots of learning and lots of different things, but from what I heard, it just didn't hit the nail on the head in the way that people needed it for those wanting to heal from early trauma and the chronic illnesses that come from that. Hey there, Anil. You said, I'm new to this and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD, so complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm not sure if you have a question, but for you and for everyone here who might be curious about the suitability of you if you have complex PTSD. So complex PTSD would be such that there's more than just the trauma stored from one thing. So if we think about like someone getting into a car accident, for example, and they have actually a really robust nervous system, and they had good upbringing, they had good self-regulation, their health was really good going into that car accident. They might have a car accident and, for a week or two after, they have PTSD, which can show up in many ways, whether it's anxiety, flashbacks, not able to sleep, digestion goes off, but it really is just the car accident that throws them off. It's like one thing. Complex PTSD is, let's say that same person, or not the same person, another person gets into the exact same car accident that isn't that intense, but it's enough that kind of rocks you a bit. And then that person walks away and their whole system falls apart, right? Not only did they have phobias and flashbacks, but they then end up having chronic pain. Their immune system goes into autoimmunity. They're afraid to leave the house, and it continues and continues for months and years. And then things compound because the system is under such complex stress. So we have had, I would say, most, and we haven't surveyed everyone, but most folks who go into my programs who know they have a chronic illness, know they have a chronic mental history, mental health history of having depression, anxiety, abandonment issues, attachment, fears, all these things that are becoming kind of hot topic right now, deep adrenal fatigue, autoimmune, heart problems, all these things. Typically, when we look at someone who represents like that, we would say that that is complex PTSD. And that's just what we're seeing more and more now. And it doesn't have to be because of being in a war-torn country, horrific abuse, car accidents that are horrendous and near death. My husband, Seth, who is my husband, and we've been together for 10 years, he's also trained in what I do, not to the same level, but in somatic experiencing and somatic practice. When I met him, he had complex PTSD, but it wasn't from, huge physical blunt trauma. It was from living in an environment growing up that was very unsafe and very verbally abusive. So please know that just because we're feeling symptoms in our body, pains, aches, it can be that way because of emotional and verbal abuse. It can also be that way due to attachment trauma, not having a solid, secure base, safe haven in our environment growing up with mom and dad or whoever was bringing us up. So often there is this misunderstanding that to have chronic illness, health problems means that you have to have had a physical trauma, and it isn't necessarily that way. The system doesn't know the difference between it being verbal, emotional, surgical, in utero, transgenerational trauma, so that's trauma from our ancestors. All it knows it's feeling in its moment now is unsafety, and I have to protect, I have to defend, and I have to shut down, or a few of those put together. And usually when we were brought up in a very unsafe environment, the fight, flight, and freeze responses are kind of swimming within our system all the time. And then they perk up and switch on depending on the situation we're in. So maybe we know mom likes it when we're really quiet, and we're really introverted and we're being really good and we're in our room reading, and so we'll get really quiet. And this is just a total general hypothetical example, but she likes it when we're quiet and we're dutiful and we do everything she wants and we don't rock the boat. Whereas let's just say dad likes it when we show a little aggression and when we're really silly and we're a comedian, and that's the only way we can get that attention from him, is being totally exuberant. Even though we might not want to, we will do it because that's how we get that connection and attachment and security. And so then you have this situation where you've got a kiddo who's having to basically be fake often, and in that they're not able to just be who they are when they want to be who they are, and they start to micromanage their internal physiology so that they stay safe in the environment. While that might seem simple, I have seen in my practice, private practice, and working with thousands of people online, this is more common than we realize, and we often don't even know that that happened until someone like me says it, and then someone goes, holy shit, that's exactly how I had to be. I had to be different depending on who I was. If I think about my husband, his parents were split, so he would spend 2 weeks with mama, 2 weeks with papa. He'd change his physiology to be with her, and then he'd change his physiology to be with him. And then there's how you are with school, how you are with your siblings when they're at mom's versus dad. I mean, it's just a mess, and that creates chaos, anxiety, and then, of course, complex PTSD. So I hope that gave a little bit of information and education about that. But overall, yes, this program, this course, I should say, helps to get started. It kickstarts the beginning foundation so that we can start to work at that level. All right, next question from Lauren. Is the tune-up suitable for those who are a bit further along than beginner level, i.e. 3 years of SE? Absolutely, Lauren. And you know what? It comes down to this. If we have a thirst for knowledge, and we know that repeating things and simplifying things and seeing a body of work from a different perspective is something we like to do, and if we know that we're that person who looks for that differentiated learning, then absolutely. We have had, I'll be honest, not many, but some people who have gone through the 21-day tune-up and they felt that it was everything they knew already. And often I find my sense is that those people stop too early because the depth starts to happen when we bring the lessons in more and more and more and integrate them. So you will know what basic orienting is, but you may not have been experienced with it in the way that I teach it with my Feldenkrais background, guiding that, for example. True story, 5, 6 of the people that work for me on Team Lion, and some are no longer with me because they're busy and doing their own thing now, but they got into this work even though they had already done all of the SE training. Some of them were more experienced than me, and they learned a lot. So it could be that the way I break things down will actually offer you a deeper understanding of how to apply this work, not only for yourself, but when you work with people in your practice, if you should if you should do that when you finish. What else shall I say about that? I also think it's just a really good idea to see how other things are run, right? To see how other practitioners like myself introduce and work with the work, and it might give you ways of working with your client base that don't fit the norm of what an SE session is supposed to look like. And if anything, Lauren, I would say that's where a lot of the SE practitioners that I've seen in class when I've assisted, which I've done a little bit in my day, they struggle because they're trying to work within the confines of this is what we did in class, therefore I'm going to do this in my practice. And that doesn't work. We have to learn, of course, the chops at the beginning, but then we have to kind of throw that all out and then work from our internal impulse, from our internal knowing, from our organic knowing of this is what this person needs, not because this is what you're supposed to do when someone comes in with a car accident trauma, but just being able to be connected with who comes in and then go from there and then draw in from your knowledge banks what you might need. There was a thought that was there and it's gone, so if I think about it, I'll bring it back. But yes, if you've got that open mind and you're someone who likes to learn and add more to your toolbox, then I would go for it. You'll definitely probably learn things for yourself that will be very important as well. Okay, Helen, question. Is this program suitable for individuals who have been damaged by psychiatric drugs? Yes, we've had lots of people who have gone through the whole kit and caboodle of benzos and SSRIs and forgetting the other main one, but really toxic stuff, you know, and people just didn't know. We just didn't know. And I mean, sadly, doctors might know and they're still prescribing them, which is unfortunate. So I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. Not a pharmacist, obviously. So it's important if someone is on these pharmaceuticals still that they work in conjunction with their medical health professional. The one thing I will say is so important to titrate off of these meds slowly, more slowly than you think, and perhaps you're already off of them. But again, think about that example I made of the really healthy, rich, black, oxygen-rich, mineral-rich soil that we want to plant our food in. Whether we have had damage from psych drugs, damage from, I've had people in my programs who have been damaged by surgical dyes in their system for imaging purposes. Whether someone's had an injury, whether someone's suffering from a brain injury. At the end of the day, it comes down to you, the person, and your wantingness, your willingness to go a little deeper and to work with these deeper levels and to really take this on as a study, right? A self-study of learning about the nervous system, learning the theory, and having a very distinct practice, which eventually, as we practice the lessons that are within the 21-day nervous system tune-up, they just start to become part of how we work and live in the world. People will say, I was talking to someone a little while ago who has gone through my courses. She was an SBSM, a Smart Body, Smart Mind student, but the 21-day tune-up was curated from SBSM, so it's like a mini, it's not a mini SBSM, it's like a good prerequisite to SBSM. But she had gone through the work, right? So the work is still all about creating that good soil, as I'm using as my analogy today. And she said, yeah, I was brushing my teeth and all of a sudden I realized I was feeling my feet, and I had never felt my feet ever in a process of an activity. Maybe when she was in a class, a yoga class, maybe when she was even doing my lessons. But the real beauty comes when we start to notice these things when we are not listening to Irene on audio, right? It's the integration into, wow, I'm driving down the street right now and I've never noticed those beautiful trees to the left because I'm always just in tunnel vision, right? And so if we think about that example I just gave, being able to orient to our environment, not only does it give us beauty and lets us see things that we don't see, it makes us safer. If you've driven down, and this is kind of a random example, but if you've driven down a road for 10 years and you've never noticed these trees on the side, that means that you're not safe, right? You're not able to see out of a certain zone. You're blinded to that area. We want to be able to see all around us, not only for beauty, but to keep ourselves safe in case something should come at us and we can then protect and get out of the way. So, Helen, that was a bit of a side winding way of saying yes, it is suitable, and the key is going at your own pace. And I will speak to that, is that we want to go at our own pace. So someone asked the question yesterday, it is 21 days. You get an email every day for 21 days. You do not need to follow it to the T of 21 days. Some folks will take months to go through the 21 days. There was actually a beautiful share, and Crystal can pop it up here in the comments, one of our 21-day members. This was over 3 years ago now, but I keep her story around because it's so great. She'd only done, I think she was on day 6 or day 3 of the 21 days. I can't quite remember. Her name is Dee, and it took her 6 months to get through the first few days. But by applying those first few days to her life, she was able to ride her bike with her 13-year-old daughter for the first time ever in her life, because her fear had changed, her sense of self had changed, her ability to orient and feel had changed. So a lot of times because of our upbringing and school culture in needing to pass the test and needing to cram for exams. I'm sure all of us have done that at some point. That adds stress to the system, and when we're stressed, we can't learn. And so what's cool is that I say to people, go at your own pace. You can always archive and save those emails for another time, but you can also restart the course whenever you want. So we have a feature on the course site that says, would you like to restart the sequence of the emails? So let's just say you got to day 3 and then you had to take a moment to pause for 2 weeks, and then you wanted to restart it. You just literally push a button and we send you email 1 from the beginning as if you're starting brand new, and then you start again, and then you go through it from that way. So going at your own pace is so important, so important for all of us, really. So I hope that answers that question. Anil, I'm working with a trauma therapist. Can your course work alongside my therapy? Yes, it can. And one of the things that has been said over and over again by my team members, who are also somatic practitioners, who help moderate the 21-day group, but also the Smart Body, Smart Mind 12-week program group, they will naturally end up working with people from these courses, because people might want to do a little one-on-one work, and I am all for private work. I think it's important. But what they've said is when they work with people who have gone through these courses that I've created, the work they're doing with those individuals, it's easier. And by easier, I don't mean you're not going to process some big stuff, some big energy stuff from the past, but it's seamless, because you're not having to, or as a practitioner, you're not having to explain, this is what's happening, or this is why I want you to do this sound, or this is why I want you to touch this part of your body, or this is why I want you to let your eyes wander and look out the window to see what you see. When we don't have that context, we spend a lot of time educating our clients, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the reasons why I created these programs, Anil, is I was in private practice, doing a lot of great work with people, but I was spending up to 50% of my time with people, often educating them with the theory, drawing out the nervous system branches, explaining what this is, explaining what that is. And while that was great and everybody wanted to learn, it just wasn't cost effective for them to pay me for a private session for me to draw something that could be online in a course like the 21 days. So 100%. And yeah, recently another person had said that their therapist commented on how well versed they were at tracking the sensations in their body, because as a culture we just don't teach that to kids. Most of us we're not taught that as little ones. When we hurt ourselves, rarely did we have a mature, emotionally mature, nervous system, trauma-informed parent or caregiver or teacher who knew when we fell and hurt ourselves to let us lay there, granted it was safe to do so, and cry and wait until that little one looks for us, and then we engage with them. Often we're just scooped up right away or told to get up right away, and that is the start of how we stop listening to our physical sensations and our emotions. And so many of us don't have that skill on board. It's there, but we have to kind of spark it back up again. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, more tea. Hey Aletha, I hope I get that name right, Doctavio. So you've signed up for the 21-day program as well as SBSM. So you are an alumni then of SBSM, I will assume. You say, I'm getting stuck and overwhelmed with all the emails in different places to retrieve the info. If one of those people, I'm one of those people that doesn't want to miss anything, so I want to read everything available to me. So I wonder what's the best way to do it step by step without rereading everything 3 times. I hope that makes sense. It does. It's been a few years now and I'd like to try again. It's also possible the program has changed. It's possible, depending on when you did the 21 days, it used to be, and you could email support and we can help you out with that, Aletha, is that we used to just have it be an email course. So the email would send you the lesson of the day. Since then, we've put everything onto a site. So similar to Smart Body, Smart Mind, everything is on a site for 21 days. And so one of the things I find useful, if you haven't already, is to create an email inbox just for 21 days or just for SBSM. And when you get emails from us, you just put them right into there. If weekly emails, we send out weekly emails pretty much every Monday. A new video, have an inbox for just Irene's weekly emails, and you just put them there. And then when you have time, when you're ready to consume and go in and learn, you go to those boxes as opposed to it just cluttering our email feed. I mean, I've seen some folks in the world have like 30,000 emails unread in their Gmail inbox, and that just makes me anxious thinking about it. So if you can find ways to organize and declutter the main space and then put them into spaces, I would recommend that. And really just start with one thing. Just start with one thing. Go back to basic orienting. Just plug it in. I'm talking as if I'm plugging in my tape recorder. That shows my age. Press play. Just do it. Feel it. Go into it. Maybe read. Don't read. You really let yourself be a bit messy if you need to, because we can also self-sabotage ourselves and not start because of the overwhelm of all the details and the content and the reading. So the video trainings and the audios are most important. Yes, it's good to read the little intro if you can, but if your system is like, oh, I'm not going to get into this if I have to read this, then just press play and listen, do the lesson, or press play and watch the video and get started there. I hope that makes sense. Lucinda asks, if you're in survival mode, can you do this? Yes. And it comes down to you wanting to do it, right? So we've had folks, again, with, as I mentioned earlier, really severe complex PTSD, really high levels of anxiety. What it comes down to, Lucinda, is being gentle on yourself. If we're in survival mode, chances are our world wasn't gentle on us, which is why we had to go into survival mode. So this process is not linear. I wish it were, but it's not. It's complex. And like I said a moment ago, things can get messy. So learning about what survival mode is from a deeper level can be very empowering, and also going through the course lessons in a very slow, we call it titrated way, knowing that if you only can do 5 minutes, you only do 5 minutes. This is the beauty of online, versus coming in for an hour session, which I don't do, but someone would come in with high levels of survival mode, and we might only have the capacity to do 10 minutes of work, but then I've had to charge them for an hour of my time. That never felt good to me. And a lot of my practitioner friends are starting to do shorter sessions, like 15-minute sessions, believe it or not, which can be difficult. And sometimes, when you're traveling across town for a 15-minute session, it just doesn't seem worth it. This is where Zoom and being online is actually really useful, because you can just log in, do a bit, and then come out. So yes, definitely if you're in survival mode. And I will say that you've got to just be very gentle and slow and listen to your body and kind of unpack and unpiece, why is survival mode there? What did your system need to protect from? What is it wanting to run from? What does it want to fight off? Is it in shutdown, et cetera, et cetera? Okay. Making sure all systems are still going well here, everyone. Okay. Thanks, Crystal, for posting D's share. Really, really fun. I'm going to actually click on it because now I'm wanting to remember. Here's what she said. This was the story I just told you about the student, the 21-day student who only did the first little bit. So she says, I may be taking the long way through the 21-day program. I'm on day 6, and it started 60 days ago, everyone. So no, there's no shame in taking your time. If anything, if we feel massive anxiety and panic around not finishing it quick and not keeping up, just that energy that we impose on ourselves is a healing point in itself, right? If we were pushed, if we were forced, if we grew up with conditions around our academic learning, around our sport prowess, around whatever it is that we needed to do at home, and we were pushed and pushed, which so many of us were when we were young, that's hardwired into us, right? And we can rewire it. And one of the ways is to go slow like this. So this is so different than a university course. You know, if this was a university course, we would have, like, this is the lecture, you got to do the homework, you got to do the assignment, because the exam is on this day. The exam is always happening with this work. The test is always happening. By that I mean, when we're in this work, we are testing ourselves, in that we are working with ourselves and reteaching ourselves how to find connection again, how to be in the here and now, how to have this nervous system regulation so that our system can essentially get the birthright that we all deserve, which is to be healthy humans and empowered and sovereign and free thinking and going with our gut and having all of those juicy abilities that humans have capacity to have. So I went on a bit of a tangent there. I'll read this again. So 6 days, day 6 started 60 days ago, but I tell you, amazing things are happening. And there's a picture of her and her daughter. Like, for instance, I rode my bike today after 20 years. Oh, wow. 20 years of being scared and frozen. My daughter is 13, and it was our first bike ride. So for those of you who are parents, you know how important it is to be with your kids and play with them and be vigorous with them. And this is just so cool that she did only 6 days and got to this level. Okay, had to read that. Okay, back to the questions. Going up, there we go. Okay, Kelly writes, I listened to one of your drop-in classes, and it was the only thing that really helped release, sorry guys, I have to move my windows around here, released, I'll read this again. So, hello Kelly. I listened to one of your drop-in classes. So drop-in is a class I do once a month, mostly always on a Saturday. So you did one of my drop-in classes, and it was the only thing that helped release some chronic tension in my shoulder and neck after weeks of pain. Could that be trauma stuck in the nervous system? Do we learn that in the course? 100%, Kelly. If that left that easily from a real basic class like drop-in, chances are there was something tightly knitted in those muscles holding from, I'm not sure what, you know yourself better, but tension in the shoulder and neck can be from holding in emotions, sadness, anger, joy, fear, disgust, surprise, all of them. It could be from an old injury, an old whiplash injury, an old concussion, an old fall. It could be from us bracing our body because something was happening to us and we didn't want to feel it, so we tensed everything up. So yes, if you know that you weren't working out at the gym really hard and that's why you had the tension, this is chronic as you said, and it shifted, then yeah, very, very likely this is stuck survival stress, which is trauma in the nervous system. And do we learn that in the course? 100%, my friend. That is what the course is all about. It is all about rewiring and reconnecting with the nervous system. And that is where the nervous system and the somatic self, this is where the traumas are stuck, right? So that's what we work with. Okay. Hey there, Michelle, just acknowledging your comment, not really a question, but you said my daughter had Addison's disease and I wonder why she ended up with this many factors. This is interesting. Yeah, you know, diseases that run through people and people get them for no apparent reason, especially when they're hormonal based, you know, so many things. I don't think we think we know a lot about health and disease, but the more we move forward, the more I think we don't know, because factors are coming in all around us. whether it was something that occurred in utero, whether it was something that occurred in birth, whether it was something that occurred in a food or a chemical we were exposed to when we were young. All sorts of things can can put a strain onto the system, and then how a person's physiology responds in turn to that strain and stress is completely often unknown. There are certain genetic predispositions, and there are definitely some true chromosomal abnormalities that are just written in our DNA, and they're very rare, right? If we really think about it, very rare. But then when there's something that crops up as we age, as we get older, a lot of it is from traumas, exposures to things, et cetera, et cetera. Know that I feel, I have a strong belief that there are ways to heal lots of things that we think are a life sentence. I've talked to people who have been diagnosed with life-threatening illnesses, who have been diabetic, who have been on thyroid medication. They've gotten off of these things. So do not underestimate, can't stress this enough, do not underestimate the power of the system to heal when you get at this level. It just hasn't been the way we've healed in the past, right? And so by bringing this in, I've seen some, many miracles happen, and even big miracles happen in some of my students, and even in people that I know just from being in this industry for as long as I have. Okay. Hey, Ariana. Being single for a number of years in my life, for the first time in my life, I realized all sorts of dysregulation when not in relationship. Yes. Waking up with a knot in my stomach every morning, fear of being alone in the evening. I think because I was left alone a lot as a child in the evenings. Yes, this is very true, right? If we had I call it an injury, but if we had a traumatic something when we were young and we haven't really worked at that level in our personal system in the current time, when we replicate something like being alone in the evening, it will bubble up that old survival stress, because typically when we're young, we go into, if we can't change a situation, we'll go into shutdown, right? We'll go into freeze so that we cope, and so that we feel, so that we don't feel the intensity that we're feeling. So we numb it out. It's like an analgesic, right? It's like nervous system Tylenol, right? It just, the freeze response comes in and it shuts it down so that we don't feel it. But then as an adult, as we start to learn more about ourselves, it's harder to shut that stuff off. So thank you for sharing. You say, I feel frustrated with these two versions of myself. Can you speak a bit on what is happening to my system? So I just spoke to the one. You also said you have neurosis around food. This is a very common thing when we are under a lot of stress as a child. If we're, it doesn't have to be just being left alone, just stress. If there's fighting in the household, food is a very clever way for us to soothe our systems. When we eat, we obviously have to chew, we have to swallow. It brings in our senses, and it calms us. It can calm us down. So if we know that we're using food as a way to self-soothe, it's doing that because it's stimulating all of the stuff, the swallowing, all of it, the full belly. It puts us into rest digest mode just naturally, right? But of course, as we know, it can lead to problems when we're not eating due to just the need to eat because we need food. So these things go hand in hand, and part of the work, Ariana, is being able to separate these sensations. So, being able to feel, okay, I'm sensing myself wanting to go get this thing to soothe. Am I hungry, right? Am I really hungry? No, okay, I'm not. What am I feeling? And to be able to go in and track the sensation, the fear, the emotion, the body, whatever it might be, posture, movement, what is the system telling us? Because the system is essentially always wanting to find safety. And if we didn't have safety, there's going to be this loop in our system that's constantly looking for safety. Some people find safety through addictions. Some people find safety through, working too much. Some people find safety through hiding and just not being engaged with the world. Some people find safety through being adrenaline junkies and jumping out of planes, right? And so everyone's going to be a little bit different. But the key is when you go for that thing that has helped you, and it has helped you, can there be a way to tease apart the sensation and maybe the old memory from the action? And it doesn't mean that you might not eat something, but can you start to bring that more mindfulness and more awareness to it? And it looks like you joined the 21-day tune-up, so awesome. This will help give you that insight to start to work with those internal systems. Okay, another sip of water. Camila says, I'm already stuck at day 1. I find the exercise really challenging. So take it slow. Do the first minute and then hit pause. I often say to people, if you're finding a struggle with something and you need to process just a tiny bit, you have my permission to shut me up and to say, no more, Irene, I need to feel this. So you got to take it slow. It's only day 1. And this is a lifestyle, so be very, very gentle with yourself, Camilla. Be very, very patient. I say to people, we need to think about this like we're learning a second language as an adult. The first day of learning something that is a complete different language to what we know, let's just say, you're listening to this, so my assumption is you know English. If you've never, say, learned or spoken or read Chinese, or any other language that's depicted in symbol, that's going to be really frustrating the first day learning that, right? Even trying to make some of the sounds our vocal cords aren't matched for that. Like I can speak French, and no matter how much I try to teach my husband how to say some words, he just can't get that R, that roll off. And even though I don't speak French fluently now, I did when I was young. So that's wired into me. Right? So when we're doing this work and we're starting to learn it, be very slow and gentle with yourself, because that way in which you interact with yourself is also helping your nervous system shift things. Someone asked a question about breaking free from family enmeshment. Really, it comes down to finding our own power inside again and working with ourselves and setting boundaries and being comfortable setting boundaries and realizing when we might need to leave the building, essentially, metaphorically, literally. Depending on a person's situation, they might not be able to financially do that. So start doing the work, start learning how to track the system, track the sensations, track the traumas, learn about your nervous system, learn how to be in your own power. Because sometimes we do need to just break free, and sometimes we can't. And so by changing our physiology and our essence, if you will, our ability to be more regulated, as we get more regulated, and if we have a family that's toxic, they start to sense that something's changing in us. And of course, that can lead to trouble sometimes, but it also can lead to them realizing something's different here. And that starts to break the matrix between us and them. And it starts to kind of fizzle, right? And then that gives us a little more room to grow a little bit more capacity. My husband actually wrote a great article, and we can post it here. I think it was titled, "Sometimes You Have to Break Up with Your Family." Have a read, because he was someone who had to do that due to the toxicity in his family system. Doesn't mean that he doesn't speak with family members, but there is a very strong boundary. And then, of course, one is completely disconnected because it's just so toxic. So that's another thing to know. You have to have differentiation, right? Sometimes it isn't the whole system. Sometimes it's one specific person that leads everybody down the dark hole, and taking time to differentiate what that is super important. Okay, more sips of liquid, people, and then I'll get into the next question. And then Caillou had a follow-up, can healing the nervous system help break free from the family, toxic family? Yes, yes. I mean, this is going to sound very oversimplistic, but as I mentioned about the garden and the healthy, nutrient, oxygen-rich soil that we want to grow our vegetables in, when we start to heal at this level, and just read some of the stories on the 21-day site of my students who've gone through this work. This isn't just to heal depression or anxiety or chronic fatigue. Yes, that happens, and it trickles into how we relate to people, how we relate to our own creativity, how we see the world around us, how we relate to our kids, how we relate to animals, how we relate to plants. Believe it or not, many of my students no longer kill their houseplants when they get into this work. And that is not a joke. There's a vlog coming out on that next week. When we're more attuned to ourselves and we're listening to our physiology, we can connect to the other natural worlds around us that need our attention, right? Peter Levine, again, founder of Somatic Experiencing, who I've had the pleasure of learning with and being with in classes, he has said many times over, he believes that true human enlightenment will happen when every single person on this planet has a regulated nervous system. I know that's a huge leap of faith to think that that can happen, but I believe it can happen. And if you're here learning this, you are part of that solution. So yes, I'm kind of giving that blanket statement because if our system is in survival, all the good food, all the good therapy in the world, we're still going to be in that survival zone, right? And that way in which we interact with our world is more than just the cerebrum. It's more the cerebral brain. It's more than just our gut. It's everything, right? We're a living, breathing organism that is whole, and so we have to treat the whole system, and the autonomic nervous system goes to every part of us, and it also energetically connects out with the world, right? We're energetic electrical beings. There's energy in the world. This is why telepathy works. This is why, you're thinking about a friend and then all of a sudden they call. Those are nerve signals going out, electrical signals going out into the world. It's not just for science fiction. This is really where our nervous system is all these places. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, Nicole, I was finally starting to orient through mindfulness at one point, but I was triggering pretty badly by an abuser, and now all of that programming and bodily sensations are back in full force. How does this happen? So, and then does that mean that I didn't heal some of the trauma? I was actually starting to notice my sensations and feelings as well, now back in shutdown. Does that make sense? Yes, it makes total sense. So my thought, my wonder, Nicole, I'm not sure if you were learning how to orient through me. It looks like it was through mindfulness practice. Here's the thing. My sense is, and I don't know you, so I'm going to be very general, that yeah, the fact that something was triggered and your system went back into a survival state of shutdown means that trauma is still circulating in your system. It's not a bad thing, it's just there. One of the things that's so different, I believe, with how I've processed and created these curriculum, both 21 days, which we're talking about more specifically today, and my other program, Smart Body, Smart Mind, is that I'm not just giving you a mindfulness meditation to do off the bat. We're starting with this interaction, talking, there's some reading, and then there might be one lesson, and then you go into a video training to learn and to get that higher brain knowledge so that your higher brain can actually kick in when your system feels like it's going into overwhelm, and then you can be like, okay, that's enough for today. Pause, stop, get up, walk around, feel my feet, here I am. Because remembering the memories is not the bad thing. Sometimes we have to bring those memories up to fully integrate them. It's whether or not we can ride that wave, I like to call it the tsunami wave of intensity, so that it can come down to the beach and fully settle into the sand and go back up to the ocean and integrate, right? So this is a thing that often isn't talked about, is sensations, feelings, memories being intense and like rocket ships. There's nothing wrong with that, but if we haven't been prepared to feel those things and what those mean, that is how we then either dissociate and go into more shutdown or get hyped up into more hyperarousal and activation. So it makes total sense, and it really comes back down to integrating, slowing it down, learning the theory, and going step by step and really slowly. So I hope you join if you haven't already. I think this will really help bridge those pieces together. Anil, the answer is yes. You asked, does the work you do include the current thinking from Polyvagal Theory and Bessel van der Kolk? So Polyvagal Theory was founded by Stephen Porges, and basically, yes, Stephen Porges codified what we know in practical sense of the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So those systems were working for millennia in humans and mammals before Porges came along. He just made it more understandable. And then Bessel is a psychiatrist doctor who talks a lot about the body keeping the score and everything being in the system. So yes. So in the course, you learn about the branches of the parasympathetic in detail, more than you will get from most popular press and even high-level webinars on trauma. I break it down. I also break down the sympathetic. And then the lessons that are taught are to engage those parts of the vagus nerve, etc. So yes, 100%. All right. I've come to the end of the line here, guys. So I will wrap it up for today. We've just gone over a bit of just over an hour. Today, again, if you haven't gone over and checked out the course site, the 21-day nervous system tune-up site, take some time. You know, I don't want you to go onto that site and be in a survival mode. Look, read, listen to some of the stories. Read some of the stories. Look at what you get. You get 9, again, I'll recount it. 21 days, 9 neurosensory lessons. These are the audio versions of my work where I guide you through. It's not just mindfulness, it's body, mind, environment, movement, work that is my kind of unique blend of blending in all my trainings over the last almost 20 years. 5 video trainings called the Biology of Stress videos. These videos range from 30 to 50 minutes, and they give you the theory. They're a PowerPoint presentation. You go in, you press play, you learn, we give you the slides, we give you the transcripts, and you can go at your own pace. You can listen to these in full, or you can watch 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. It really is adult learning. It's self-directed. We give you a template. Yes, it's over 21 days, but you can take your time, as I've mentioned. The other thing is that everything, again, on the course site, that's where everything lives. Each day comes with an introductory video where I explain what you're going to learn that day. So for instance, that could be something that you do like day 1. You know you want to titrate. You know that you've got complex stuff going on and you don't want to overwhelm yourself. On day 1, just watch the intro video, then take a break. Right? Take a break, and then later in the day go in to do the lesson, or the next day do the lesson. So really, you will learn what I call following your impulse in this course, but over time you will learn how to follow your impulse and listen to that innate, organic knowing that we all had at one point. This is so important. When we are born, we know what we need, and whether or not we were attuned to and securely attached to or not will determine how our wires get built as a human system. If you're here, chances are that early upbringing wasn't the best, and I like to say no one's fault, but it's everyone's fault, in that we're learning as a human species how to raise our young, and there's no one rule of this is how it's supposed to be, even though we know from the animal kingdom there is a way it's supposed to be. So because of our culture and our conditioning and our industry and our domestication, we have totally lost that innate intelligence on how to be with young, which is then what puts out these troubles later in life. The work that I do is bringing this back to that original source knowledge of how to be with the sensations, how to be with the movement, how to even feel yourself in relationship to the environment. The course gets into movement lessons where you're moving, you're feeling. It's not just sitting there and silently noticing. We bring in the motor pathways of the body. So it's hitting our nervous system in really good ways from all levels. So wanted to say that. And again, today's the sale for Cyber Monday. I know it's a little gimmicky, but hey, why not? We're part of this world, so let's play with it. Again, normally this course is $297 US. Today we're giving you $100 off, so $197 off this course, the 21-day nervous system tune-up. Only for today. It's 1:15 p.m. Pacific, so we will close up at the end of the day today. If you know that this week you're busy and you can't get in, but you want to do it, get in, do it, because even though you start today and you get the emails, you can pause those emails and you can restart the sequence when you have time on December 15th. Just pulling that date out of my brain. So know that, again, if you know you want to do this, now's the time. Get in, save some cash. We only do this once a year. We did this last year. It was a big hit. So we'll no doubt do this again next year. Granted, Cyber Monday is still a thing. Thank you for all being here. Again, go to the site, check it out, read the things, take your time, be intentional, and hopefully we see you on the other side in the course. Oh, and the other thing, if you're here on Facebook, chances are you're on Facebook. So there is a private Facebook group for this course specifically. It is private. Only those in there have paid to participate in this course, and 2 of my colleagues are in there moderating that group on a weekly basis. Like, someone is in that group at least every other day, answering questions, making sure you know what to do, specifics to lessons. They're there helping and supporting. So it's more than just a website. It is that online community, and it's just a really great way to keep the practice going. All right, so the sale is on today. The code is on the website. It's just 21-day cyber sale. You put that in at checkout, you get the money off, and then you can start. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. We will see you next time, and if we don't see you in the course, we'll keep seeing you on my lectures, on my vlogs. Of course, I've got drop-in classes, and I've got my bigger program, which is Smart Body, Smart Mind, starting up in March. And I will say one more thing about that. If and when you participate in the 21-day nervous system tune-up, I know this is a lot if you're new here, but my longer 12-week program is called Smart Body, Smart Mind. We run that in March. The money of 21 days gets taken off of Smart Body, Smart Mind. So if you join today at $197, you get in on the sale. If you decide to do Smart Body, Smart Mind next round, we will still give you the full price off of it. So $297. So it's like a little win-win there. And if you've been following me closely, I will add one more thing. There is an interesting time right now for my company and myself in that we are opening up registration for Smart Body, Smart Mind soon, because we're doing a research study. So not to overwhelm, but if you know that you want to go kind of the next level after 21 days and you have interest in helping contribute to the academic study of my work, and of course the work of somatic experiencing, Feldenkrais, etc., check that out. If you've been on my list, email list, you would have gotten an email, but we are opening up that soon. I know that's a lot to give you, but I want to just give that little plug in case you know you want to do SBSM after 21 days in March and you want to participate in a research study. Check that out. If you didn't get any information on that, please send us an email and we can send you that information. All right, now I'm really going to hang up. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here on this Monday, November 30th. If you're watching the replay after the fact, thank you for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye for now.